time and time again by Mario as the best part of the conference. But I think it's going to be up to you how that's going to work out. So we'll figure that as we go. First of all, I'd like to welcome Martin, Saeema, John, and Valeria. I was going to say the 4 victims. That's not quite right. They did all say yes, but it's an interesting thing they said yes to. But it all depends partly on how you engage with this process. So what is the design debate? Why have we got you together in the hall this afternoon? Now, the conference has been going on nearly 20 years, but the debate has only been going 5 times, and we missed a couple. And the idea is to move more than a mere exchange of ideas. It's an invitation to the design community to reflect, question, and possibly reorientate their perspectives on the essence and direction of design research and practice. So that's what we set out to do. And way back, and I know how these folk are feeling because I've been on the other side. I was terrified being up there for the first debate run by Steve Cully, proposing something I didn't believe in. So whether or not these folk believe in what they're saying, we'll find out right at the end. But that was the proposition. Design research should be about developing new products, technologies, and services, not theories, models, and methods. You go on 2 years. In its present state, design research spends too much effort on explaining what is done by designers instead of developing new ways to design. 2 years on again, design methods created by design researchers are vital to practicing engineering designers. That's 3 ways, I think, of saying pretty much the same thing. Design research should focus its efforts in learning from real practitioners and stop running meaningless experiments with inexperienced students. That one was fun. Then we missed a couple. So this was from the advertising literature. You can read it for yourselves. It bigs up what we're about to do again. So it promises to be especially provocative. Product is dead. Long live systems. That is the debate, and Saeema and Martin are going to propose, and John and Valeria oppose. So what are we actually going to do? Well, we're going to think about things that you might think of as product or system. That's part of the challenge, as to where do we stand on that part of the debate. So the topic will be proposed and then opposed by Saeema and then John, about 8 minutes each. And then the seconders will get a chance to say something on both sides for about 4 minutes each. Then we open to the floor, and you can question individuals or the whole panel on their views to unpack this thorny debate. Then there'll be a single final statement from each table, and then we vote. But how are we going to vote? I don't know. But we need audience participation. So let's just to check you're all working. Can everybody stand up, please? Can you all turn 180 degrees and face the back, please? And can you turn back again, please, before you sit down? So you can now all sit down. Now, the idea is, if somebody says something you particularly agree with, you can stand up and face them. If they say something you particularly disagree with, you can stand up and face the back. They have no right to interrogate you as to why you feel that way. So everybody loves Marmite.
Marmite. Very good example.
Okay. Next one, just to check. AI is the answer to everything. AI is the answer to everything.
Oh, there are some people who agree.
And the last one, just to check you're all awake and listening. Cats are smarter than dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get you all sitting down again. So remember, at any point when one of the speakers on the stage here is speaking, you can stand up and face the front quietly, or turn around and face the back. You will not have to answer to your actions. Now, given the number in the room, we might add another layer to this. If during the course of the debate later on, you feel particularly moved to move to one side of the room or the other, feel free. And I'm assuming that if you agree with John and the team, you'll come this side. If you agree with Simon and the team, you'll go this side. There's plenty enough chairs for you to try and do that. It might make the voting a bit easier at the end. It might mean a load of you might be sitting on the floor. So be moving about as we go. So at this point, I'm going to sit down and be quiet. Saeema, would you like to propose the motion, please?
Well, thank you. I'm Saeema. You don't disagree or agree? You're fine, fine, good test. Right, so we are, Saeema and Martin, we are pro-products that is dead and long-lived systems. I doubt if anybody in this room, apart from us, have an opinion one way or the other. And I didn't have an opinion one way or the other, so I had to convince myself. So these are the arguments that I've used to convince myself. Oops, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. Here we go. Right, so first we start, how has the design community and the engineering design community thought of products? We go back a few years, a few decades. There's something that you drop on your foot and it hurts. That's the definition from Sir Mike Gregory. So a question we've asked ourselves as part of the design community, as design researchers, design educators, as designers, is how do we design? If I take this example, this is a complex product. There's 10,000 components. There may be a few hundred people involved in that designing of that engine. If you're sitting there, if you're on your own designing that component, or if you're that team, what you do matters to all the other parts in that system or that product in there. So you don't design that component alone, even if you're sitting there on your task alone. These are not just physical interfaces, they're functional interfaces, and how you repair that product over time matters and has a knock-on effect. This is something we can say as design society we have accepted. We have already a field on change propagation with some of the authors right here, recognizing that one thing that you design has a knock-on effect to the other interactions and components. We even have established methodologies, the design structure methodologies, to identify those interactions. So the first statement I'm going to make is systems already exist within complex products. Right. Thank you. Anybody else? But the question comes, what if the product is not simple, not complex? What if we've got a simple product? I tried to think of the paperclip, I couldn't think of one quite yet, so bear with me. This is a bike light designed by a company we work with in DigitLab called C-Sense, and they kindly lent me their slides for the case study here. So they designed these bike lights that have low energy consumption sensors in them. And the bike lights are put on both bikes, but also electric scooters. And from that, what it enables is that you have an app, and the user of those bikes can see their own data. They can track how much they've moved around, where they've moved around. If they combine that with their energy input, they can see the effect on their exercise, their well-being, and their mental health even. But beyond that data being shared by the user, what you can do is the company then collects much more data beyond that cycle light. Sorry, I've just broken the thing, but anyway, just sorry, bear with me. And that data, so if you look at that one on the right over here, shows you the routes that cyclists are using in cities. The one down here in Waterloo, London, shows you both the demographics of cyclists against the routes. And here, the vibration sensors they use actually enable you to have data and information about the quality of the roads. That information is useful not just to the bike light company or to the user, but to infrastructure planning, to local authorities who are involved. So what we're starting to get here are systems. And not just the systems around the C-Sense data or the apps, but also integration with data from traffic planning. On the right here, we've got two bridges along the Thames. And what this shows, that you can also see what we call swerve data. So when the cyclists have near misses, so not quite an accident, but they're moving. So you could see the impact of the infrastructure on those bridges to the planning and safety of those cyclists. So what Porter is describing this move as is moving from a product to a smart product. We had that app, to a connected product, to product system, and even systems of systems. So it's not just the product instead, it's systems of systems. In this design conference, we have a session on that. And two of the papers are over here by Valeria in that session. Thank you very much, Valeria. So what we are talking about is that single product is now a family of connected products, but is also systems which can start also being systems of systems. So the second point we're making is technology is changing or has changed, whatever your perception is of time, and products are changing. Thank you. The third thing is, so either we have a technology push, and we've described product development for a long time being technology push or market pull. But we all live in a world, and we heard Daniela's keynote describing that world. And everything we see around us in this world is designed. Okay? There's the infrastructure, there's the seats, there's everything that we are doing here. And we may tap ourselves on the back and shoulders say, well done, we did a very great job there. But what we also know, that our world is facing global challenges. Okay, there's waste, there's pollution, there's impact on the biodiversity. And if you look at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, they state the waste and pollution does not exist by accident. These are the results of design decisions. So everything we do has a consequence. If we take the simple product with a single component of the plastic bag, that has resulted in legislation, lots of new ideas around it, and the impact of that on biodiversity and single-use plastics is now quite well known in there. So the second argument I have is around society. If you look at this model, this is a butterfly model, and I'm sure many of you know this better than I do, that this is from circular economy literature from Ellen MacArthur, who's actually the source is based on Cradle to Cradle, not original Ellen MacArthur. But these describe two systems. On the right-hand side, you see a technical system, and on the left-hand side, you see a biological system. And these are around three main principles of eliminating waste and pollution in the way we design our products, but also circulating the products and components to create maximum value for as long as possible. If you think about this is apparent in the research many of us are doing. So product service systems, we've got the teams from D2U. Are you going to stand up, Dave? No, not quite yet. So yeah, my strategy is to quote all of you, and then we'll have you all up in a bit, right? We have the sharing economy. We've seen many examples of moving from not designing new products, but using products that already exist. We see that in the automobile industry. We've seen that with hotels being replaced by Airbnb. We see that in music. So that brings a new set of design research issues, understanding the psychology of shared ownership, understanding the impact on interfaces and designing for multiple users. We've also understood the need to reuse and distribute and to recycle our products and life cycles. So these are some of the principles that are coming from the circular economy material. So the two statements that I'm now going to leave you with, the first one was the products and components interact. So we already know the systems exist within complex products. With the changing needs of technology, with the availability of technology, we have an opportunity to create more than just products, but connected products. So the thing I should have mentioned, which is quite important in the bike light example, that company is no longer going to produce bike lights. So the product is dead, and the system is forever in that example. So the interaction with the products of Internet of Things, the availability of sensors, enable us to share data to create value to multiple users and create systems of systems. Secondly, with the global challenges that we face, the responsibility that we have is changing, not just as designers, but also as design educators and as design researchers. So the question I'm going to leave you with while you go through that next session is, how do we design for tomorrow? And I'll just leave you a teaser of what's to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Saeema. That's a fabulous presentation. And also thanks to you and Martin and Valeria for working with me on this really blast of an event for us to have, and John for organizing it. And so it's great to see the thought that there are systems out there, and we do not disagree with you that there are systems, and that there are important systems. And hopefully, okay, so products, though, are alive, and they are everywhere. So we can even look at something as simple as a toothbrush. And not just toothbrushes that have been around for 100 years, but innovation that's still taking place. This is the International Design Excellence Awards. Last year's silver winner was just a rechargeable toothbrush. That's a product. Things can get a little more complicated, but still be products, such as an electric bike, another winner from last year in the competition. And even more complicated is a motorcycle, but it's still a product. And again, motorcycles have been around, but there's still innovation. And again, winning awards, winning prizes. And then finally, since we're sitting on beautiful water, we can look at the skidoo and all go out afterwards and maybe sip some wine as we go off in our product that lets us just enjoy the time out on the bay or in the ocean. So products still exist, and products are important, and products are can be independent. But it can be very, very simple products that are so important, like an award-winning running shoe. All of us have shoes that we might like, and that's just a product that we buy. We need it in our life, we use it, and it's not a system. It's just something that we go off and we use. I'll show you another example. This was actually a product that some students in one of my classes created when the company Nuck came to us and said, hey, there's a bunch of dual income people with young kids, and they bring them everywhere in the car, and they give them really crappy junk food because they don't have time to give them healthy food, and people feel really guilty about doing that to their kids. As a matter of fact, one of the people they spoke with said, I often need to make trade-offs between a good meal and convenience. So these students developed a really clever, simple product, which is the idea that they were driven by this idea of berries. Right? Berry is about as healthy as you can get. And who wants to have berries with your kids in the back seat of your car? But they created a product that has basically an inner bowl with a strainer in it that fits inside an outer bowl, and then a cover on top that allows a toddler to put their fingers in and get the berries, and the juices from the berries go through the strainer. But because of the design, you can shake this thing all you want and the juices aren't going to fly anywhere. And actually the company Nuck produced this product, and I pulled this quote off of the web. This may be the best snacker yet. It has a slotted insert that allows the liquid from fruits and veggies to not make them mushy. Fruit on the go was always an issue for my children, but they love it so much. No worries for squishy berries now. Highly recommended. One simple product that had a big, profound change in terms of at least these parents and their children. So products are alive as well, And just showing you products, I believe we've proven our point. Now, I could stop there, but let's go a little further. Tools and other products like them have been around as long as humankind. And there are very simple tools that are just made out of one piece of metal. And you could say that's fine, but tools have been around a long time. Is that sort of current? But yet there's still innovation in tools. For example, this tool on the right, as you squeeze it, the plungers come forward, they can grab the nut, any side, very easy to use. And so time and time again, even the simplest products are still being innovated, and we see more and more products in the market that are independent of being part of a system. And then you can think about other products, like here's another award-winning dishwasher. And some products need infrastructure. You can't run this dishwasher unless you have electricity and unless you have water. So there needs to be infrastructure, but the product itself is independent of being a larger system. So products are all around us, but we do believe in systems as well. It's not one or the other. And the challenge is, are products dead? No, but there are also systems. So for example, multiple products together can create a system. You can buy a system like this for being able to produce music. But I can take any piece of it out. For example, the headphones alone are a standalone product. Or to quote my daughter when I was talking with her about this, she said, I don't want a system, I just want the products I want to have within that system. There's the other issue that some companies are trying to create product systems just to do it. Trying to create connected products, systems, IoT systems, because they think they have to. So here's a wonderful example of a refrigerator, so that when I go to the store, I can find out how many eggs I have in my refrigerator. Do I really need a refrigerator to tell me how many eggs I have? Or there's toasters that when the toast is done and pops up, it then sends me a message, your toast is finished. We don't need that part of a system. We just need the product itself. But then there are systems out there that are systems for the sake of being a system because it's necessary. And a great example is Nest. It makes sure that my house is at a temperature that's comfortable, but also economically smart. It adjusts the temperature as I need. It can make sure my house is secure. And it's all connected in a system, and you need the system for the Nest to work. So once again, we're not opposed to systems. It's just that products are not dead. Well, let's look at design process. And there's different models out there. This is one that I had published 25 years ago, so I'll use it as an example because it starts at the very, very early stages of product design. And really the whole idea of creating a product is, what's the opportunity? How do we understand that opportunity? What is the thing that we need to design for? Can we start to think about concepts and then realize them in a system or a product or a service? But that very early stage of product innovation or of innovation is really all the same because we don't know what we're designing yet. There are questions like, what's the problem to be solved? Who cares about that problem? When do they care about it? What do they do now to solve that problem? And what do they value? What do they truly care about? And how big is that problem? And then, what are potential concepts or directions? All of those are the same, whether you're talking about a product or a service or a system. It's when you get to the lower parts, when you start to instantiate that there's a difference. And your solution very well may be a system, but it could be a product as simple as a water bottle or a pizza oven. So, although systems certainly exist, we love products, and they are here because those products make our lives better. Here's an example of many of the kitchen tools that the company OXO produces, or the shoes by Hoka, which I purposely wore today, brand new for this week, my favorite shoes. I have my nice ones in the room, but they're just a product. But Hoka has sold more than 1.5 billion euros worth of product in the last year. So products are still alive and still exist.
Here goes nothing. Thank you, John. I especially love the shoes and, of course, also the wrench. Let me tell you, I have a PhD student who's deeply into those kind of shoes, and it's not the shoe. It is a combination of that particular shoe with that particular PhD students for that particular race, which makes it the perfect fitting project or product for this particular event. Same with wrenches. I had to do some rebuilding of some car, and you know it's really hard if you got an empirical wrench and some metrical kind of nut, then things get really messy. One thing can't exist without the other. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, honored house, Mr. Speaker, I have prepared a 3-layered argument for systems, products are dead, long-lived systems. I have chosen the most obvious arguments that I have been able to come up with. Number 1, the Drake equation. As we all know, this is the equation about the existence of civilized intelligent life in the universe, and it gives you a probability about how this this intelligence is spread across the universe. I have taken the liberty to create a product abundance equation on similar terms. So the abundance of products and artifacts in the area is defined as a population in the area by the fraction of the population that manufactures or uses the product, times the average number of products or artifacts produced or used per person, the fraction of products or artifacts that are accessible or visible, not discarded or hidden, and the fraction of products or artifacts that have survived or are durable, times the fraction of products and artifacts that are significant or recognizable, and times the time period over which the product or artifacts have accumulated. And let me tell you, the probability of an abundance of product is overwhelming. My first argument, product, you are not alone out there. There are many of you. My second argument is solidly founding on the knowledge of the 1999 Matrix movie. Ever since 1999, we know that the Matrix is out there. Everything is digital. We were not sure before, but now we know. We have picked it up quite nicely, whether it is with 3D CAD modeling, with analysis, with simulations, but of course the ultimate part is our approach to digital twins. Now Ben Hicks is unfortunately not here, but there are many, many kind of digital twins out there. Whether it's a twin model, it's a full twin, just parts, whether it's on products, whether it's in the process twins, there is an abundance of digital dimension around each product. That brings me to my second argument. There is no dumb standalone product anymore. Every artifact has multiple digital dimensions, even if it is just a number in the storage area. That brings me to my third argument and my beloved Shannon-Weaver model of communication. The Shannon-Weaver model of communication defines a good communication is based on the avoidance of noise in the middle. It is not the sender or the receiver necessarily, it is the noise that is mangling up the communication. Now this translates nicely into interaction design. It is not the product per se which defines a good product or not a good product. It is the interaction with the user or the interaction with another product which actually defines that something is working or not working. I can build the highest grade gear, I can build the most sophisticated element. If they don't fit together, they are not working. If I haven't put lubrication onto it, it probably won't work as intended. So this brings me to my third argument. Not only the state of the product artifact defines the quality, the elimination of noise determines if a product interacts, that is, works as intended. My 4 minutes are up, so that means I have to conclude. It is the interaction in the cyber-physical space, human to object, but also, and I really like to stress this, object to object, that determines a good product. We decided to call it systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin. And I really like some of the arguments, but I think I should remind everyone about the exact motion that we are discussing today, what you should vote about in the very end. What we are discussing in this is that product is dead, long-lived systems. And I think Professor Cagan already argued about why we can agree that systems shall live longer. But do we agree that product is dead? Very much not. In fact, we are even wondering what does it mean exactly to say that product is dead. First of all, this notion is confusing because, in some definition of products, for instance, the first one that you find online on Wikipedia, if you go searching, a system is even brought up as an example of a product. So how can they even be alternative? You might very well say, but this is business, this is marketing. In design, we have good distinction between product and system. For instance, in Goedkoop, in product service system literature, we see this very nice definition. A product is a tangible commodity. It can fall on your toes. I didn't know that Saeema was going to bring up if it falls on your feet, it hurts. In here, it doesn't even need to hurt. It just needs to fall on your toes. And a system is a collection of elements, so something that cannot fall on your toes. So this is a good litmus test for distinguishing products and systems. It's clear. Now we know what's a product. It's something tangible. But then how can we say that tangible products are dead? That doesn't make sense. Obviously, they will not disappear. They're all around us. We would all be dead without products. So what could it mean? One thing that it could mean is that product could become dead for us as designers. That as a design community, as design practitioners, we could just decide to focus on systems or on intangible products and just don't care about things that can fall on our toes anymore. This is conceivable, this is something that we could imagine, but it's something that I would very much like to argue that we shouldn't do for multiple reasons. So one is that instead products will not disappear, they're very much important in our life, but also that would be a way to depart from a long history of product design and of design of tangible artifacts. This is a body of knowledge that has been developed over the centuries, over the millennia, depending on when you want to start counting, and is very much a foundation of our discipline and some roots that we should absolutely not depart from. In fact, to do so, I would argue, would worsen the ongoing identity crisis in design, and we absolutely should not, especially because, we can work on system. As Saeema said, this is my own field of research, in fact, systems design, and we should definitely progress further on it. But in order to do this, it's absolutely not needed to abandon product design, to abandon this fantastic and rich knowledge on product design that we have in the discipline. In fact, I would argue that some product design knowledge is also very useful in systems design. And again, we love systems, but we also very much love products. There are products that are just products. I would argue that even if many of these and indeed some digital footprint, so what? They're also still products. Them being connected and then having an interface doesn't mean that there are any less of products. And there are many such examples of products that we love. So because of these reasons, I would like to declare the original motions that we are voting for wrong. I would like to say we all should disagree with it. And instead, I would like to suggest an alternative one, which is long-lived systems, social products live, and social design. Thank you very much.
So, now it's your chance to interrogate gently the folk on the stage. So we're going to take the microphones into the room. If you have questions, please say if it's directed at a particular side or particular person or just for everybody to respond to. Reminder that you can still vote vertically, directionally. You can change sides at any point from this point onwards. If you're beginning to collect your thoughts and you think you should be on the one side or the other. So, any questions? I knew John's hand would go up first.
I liked both arguments, so I need more to distinguish. And I'm going to ask Martin, since you introduced Shannon, What's the Shannon entropy of a product if it's not a system? The Shannon entropy of a product if it's not a system.
But I'm arguing it is a system. That is exactly the point.
So that's why I want you to answer the question. All right.
Thank you.
If that's too hard for you, we'll pass it to the other side.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
John. What's the Shannon entropy of a product if it's not a system?
0.
I'll vote for you.
A very simple question. Can a system exist without a product?
Can you get that? Did you hear the question?
I don't know, but it's not our question. It probably can, but it's not our question. But we're saying a product can't exist without a system. That's what we're saying. Or shouldn't exist without a system, including those simple, beautifully designed products. The question is, do you want to go home with a sleep at night and think design will save the world? Or do you want to go home and say you're going to leave behind those beautiful products polluting and waste around the environment?
I think it might be good to shed some light on the underlying definitions of systems and products. So to both groups, how do you define a product? How do you define a system? And can they be both the same? So to the left group, can a product itself be a system without any interaction? And to the other group, can there be products that are not a system?
Right, the first bit, I think I started with that argument that complex products already contain systems. And I believe that's really well recognized now, that every component has an interaction with other components and a knock-on effect with the other components. So systems exist within products.
And maybe a take on a very simple and non-complex product that is not connected in any kind of way. At least it should be a system when we are designing it and when we are testing it and when we are thinking about how to produce it. If it isn't, then we are making a mistake.
If I can add to that, so for us the question is about can a product not be a system? I would even agree that, a system is just a connection of elements, and therefore it's just always possible, I think, if you really want to describe every product as a system. That could very well be true. If you see it as a system and you want to describe that system, that could work. But it also, none of this makes it less of a product, and even less it means that product is dead.
So we want to differentiate the notion of environment, infrastructure, and the product itself. Clearly everything is manufactured. There has to be ore or some kind of oil that's brought from the earth and then processed and on and on and on and on. But that doesn't make the actual device that we're looking at a system. The product or system is the end entity that we are using and purchasing. So for example, this glass is a product. I can buy it. And so we want to differentiate that notion, and therefore this glass is not connected to anything else, I guess except for the water that I'm about to drink, but I added that.
I like to humbly disagree, John. This glass needs to be manufactured. It needs to be stored. There is some logistics behind it. This glass needs to be recycled. This glass is more. It needs to be designed. There is some file actually on this glass in the background somewhere stored. This is not a simple artifact and object in itself. It is more.
Let me ask you a question. Has there ever been a product in the entire entity of the universe then?
Yeah. Maybe my question goes in this direction. Looking at the system theory says a system is always a model of something. And I think both of your discussions goes in this direction. In product development, we speak about products, and we have also a lot of elements around the product, environmental objects and so on. And to describe them, to understand them, like you said in the manufacturing, logistic part, we develop models for us to understand it. But at the end, it's a lot of physical products, physical elements, technical or not technical, and we need the systems to understand them. So maybe this is an interesting point also for your discussions. We think in systems, because this is something we need as a human, but at the end, we develop products in a specific environment. Maybe this is one of the solutions to come together with the ideas.
So I own 3 chickens, so I don't need to check at the supermarket, back at my fridge, if I have any eggs or not, because I have a daily supply of eggs, and I love them, and they're sustainable, and it's great. So my question is around the metaphor of chickens and the egg. So firstly, what comes first, the system or the product? And then secondly, what comes last, the system or the product?
First, you've answered that question to someone who's got a phobia of chickens, so I don't appreciate the question. On a serious note. I think if you think about Internet of Things, if you think about Michael Porter and what he's saying with digitalization, with the abundance of data, with the availability of Internet of Things and the investment, we are starting with a product, but we're shifting that. Now, we've seen product service systems around as a field for a while, so part of that is not driven by the increase in technology. Part of it's driven by by thinking about the environment, by thinking about that right-hand side of that circular loop, the shared economy, for example. So what we're arguing for, that products can be dead if you want to move towards these systems, and perhaps that's better for the environment. That's one argument. The other argument is the example of that bike light. The product did become dead. That's a true case. That product of the bike light is disappearing. Why is it disappearing? Because the value, the economical value, is appearing in other ways. So it is starting with that premise that the product is the physical product, and the physical product is disappearing. So we would say the product started first, but probably there are examples where it's the other way around as well.
Do you want to respond? No? Valeria?
Sure. I mean, it's also, yeah, of course, maybe one difference is also that systems, if they're also natural systems. So in a way, you can argue that, for instance, systems were there before humanity even, and products, if they need to be manufactured, if they need to be artificial, that's something that came later. At the same time, I don't know if we are talking about natural systems in this context rather than systems are products of humans. And in that case, indeed, I would imagine that products came first, and and man-made systems came later. And I'm afraid that that's also that because of the physical reality of systems, if that's how we are defining them, they will stay around for a long time. And this is an aspect of the environmental concern for product design that I, of course, share, but I would also like to argue that we do need product design knowledge, and we also need to focus on products, especially for solving the environmental crisis, or at least helping towards a solution towards the environmental crisis. For instance, the knowledge of materials is crucial in that area of work, and that's very much an area within product design, I would say.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't see the big opposition between the two terms, because somebody said the product is mostly a physical thing that can fall on your foot, but a system is a mental construct. I mean, if we decide to see products as systems being part of a mental construct, why not? But if we decide not to do so, we just leave it.
I think it's a matter of a resolution level, whether I see product as product or as product elements. So that means I define a system by its elements and its relationships between the elements. And this is in any case for any product, or if we call it X, Y, Z, the same. And so we cannot measure with different categories. So therefore we shouldn't take out the product out of the system. So system is a system. And yeah, this is me.
So I have no doubt that physical products are necessary for us. We are using them every day. But I'm wondering, is this question semantics question? Because we have been teaching our students for a long time that all definition of a product is a physical product that can fall on your foot. But that actually the new definition of a product is that the product is a combination of a product and services which make actually a product. If you take a phone, even the old phone, it needed wires, not just that, and it was a product in itself. Our phone today, mobile phone that all of us have, it has a card which does the same thing, but it is a product, and without that service, it wouldn't be a product. It wouldn't be that product. So, are we actually, is it semantics question? That's my question to both sides.
So, sorry, do you want to go? So, again, there's infrastructure. And so the old phones from the old days that needed to be plugged into a wire, which isn't any different than our phone connecting to satellites, you need those satellites for the phone to work, but the product itself is what you're buying, and you can have different products that you choose. So the product itself is the entity. But again, early on, there isn't a difference. What is it what problem are you trying to solve? And that's where systems still are alive today, because there's sometimes that you need a whole system, and other times you don't need a system. You need something very simple or even something complex that's independent. And that's interesting. I remember when I was teaching some students, capstone design, they came to me with two possibilities. They're mechanical engineering students. One of them was the most simple one-component solution for their problem. The other was an incredibly complex solution with mechanisms and connectivity. And of course, they were driven by wanting to do something complicated. And they said, which one should we pick? And I said, well, what do your users say? Well, they want the simple one. I said, well, there's your answer. It's not about creating a system to create a system. It's about solving the problem. Sometimes we solve it with something complex. Sometimes it's multiple components to make a system. Or sometimes it's something much simpler that's independent.
I'd like to add to that. I would like to take the complexity out of this. So for me, a system can also be extremely simple. And it's not a question of how many parts or how many complex subsystems we are having. But the gentleman pointed to one particular interesting part, and this is how we are teaching product development, which we do, not systems development. And I think one of the key problems that I'm seeing every now and then is that we are teaching students to generate an artifact after specific specifications and tolerances, and when it's done, we are all happy and we are proud and we are tipping on our shoulders, but then it doesn't work because apparently nobody has bothered to test it, nobody has bothered to try integration. Integration always sucks and doesn't work immediately. So I think it's really about getting the systems view into when you are designing, when you are actually thinking about generating a product. That is important.
Okay.
Thank you. I would like to point at the actor network theory by Bruno Latour.
quite well-known philosophical stand. So this is quite interesting. Can we actually think about products, things around us that are not connected? If we remember, the actor network theory is pointing at everything we are surrounding us with are acting on each other, so influencing each other, so we have unintended interventions all the time. So my question is now, can we actually think from this point of view that products are not connected to systems? Thank you.
Here, here.
So I have a question for Martin and Saeema. You're saying products are dead, and I'm wondering how, let's say we adopted this statement, and we all believe in it, how would that make the world a better place? Since, I mean, the other party doesn't oppose systems in general, right? Systems are still there. But denying the existence of products, what do we gain from it? What do we benefit from it?
I think, actually, we're supposed to have a one-liner to close, and you've both stolen my last lines. So, so thinking about how we're teaching design and product development and how, the transition. So we're no longer, so you've just said that we don't think it's thinking of a product on its own. I firmly believe products aren't on their own. And there may be the consequences of so the statement product is dead, systems is live, that's a provocative statement. We did not write that statement. Sorry, John. So you can interpret that colon as thinking, or I'm interpreting that colon as saying product is dead if we're not thinking about the system. So the question is, we turned your question around and said, can you think about designing a product just as a standalone product? And forget about interactions, forget about testing for a moment, but think about the consequences of it, thinking about the connectivity. And I think either you're losing an opportunity if you were a business, or you're losing responsibility and sleep at night because of the consequences of your product.
You a little bit addressed this now, but I'm wondering if product is in fact dead, did it die of natural causes or was it murdered?
I like to think it died because we have started to become smarter in terms of looking into the world as a system, but I doubt that this is the case. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, thank you for the...
Yeah. So in his book, Marshall McLuhan, on the book Understanding Media, he wrote about all tools that humans create as extensions of man and the extent that electricity cannot exist without the light bulb. So in that fact, artifacts that our humans produce are always connected. In order to understand, to get to water at the end of the well, we cannot get without the bucket and the well, but what we understand, the water being the thing that we need, we are going to get it through the bucket, through the artifact that is tangible. So I propose actually that one cannot live without the other. It's always an extension of the other.
Yeah, and if I can just quickly add also on the last remark from Martin about the need for thinking in system and also Saeema, is that I really don't see how that is necessarily alternative to at the same time maintaining the product perspective, in the sense that it's very easy for me to imagine how both perspectives could be kept at the same time, and in a way they could be embedded in different way into overall development processes. And therefore, I also have issues imagining how, what exactly could it be meant by product being dead, in the sense that even if we keep on thinking in systems, products just won't disappear. And even if we think about systems and the matrix and the digital environment, that doesn't mean that the physical reality will also stop existing. That's just something, it sounds to me also like, almost like changing the perspective presupposes that then the physical world and this kind of environment and products and collection of physical things will stop existing or be less important as a perspective, which I really don't see.
Yeah, I think we have good arguments on both sides. I'm more for the systems perspective of design because I believe it's it provides a more holistic framework to address problems from a global, view. However, I have a problem with the statement, and if you agree to modify the statement because it's a bit radical by saying product is dead, I would agree product is going to be dead. Long live to systems, because for product designers, I think this is a shock because they are in product design departments. Like in some university, you have product design department, you have department of mechanical engineering, department of electrical engineering, and in some other universities, you have pillars. Pillars includes, mechanics, biomaterial, material sciences, bioengineering. So these are pillars because they want to address the problem from a systems perspective. And we can see this issue in education. For example, 2 years ago in my PhD, I addressed the problems happening in student learning from a complex systems perspective, which is part of complex learning, the integration of knowledge, skills, and attitude, etc. So if you agree to modify the statement, I think it is it would fit me. And if you agree to do that, then I think I can vote for you. Thank you.
Oh.
Can I respond, John?
I'd like you to think a bit, no, but you may respond.
The statement is controversial, so we have a debate. Yeah. So that's why we're here. Like I say, I think that colon is without. For me, its product is dead without a systems view. I just want to say one thing on the education point of view. So I was the head of design products at Royal College of Art, which is a postgraduate education, so most people have a design background. We assume that thinking of designing a product alone has been done at bachelor's level. By the time you get there, there's very few. If you go around to the shows, and I'm not there anymore, but I think it's a very good exercise to go and look at those shows. You'll see that very few of the outcomes from design products are just products. Right? You have biomaterials. Some of them are, one was this clothes that grow. I was thinking about extending the lifetime of a baby clothes as they grow with you. So it's thinking about that right hand of that circular economy butterfly. There's biomaterials. So one of the Earthshot Prize was another joint RCA Imperial student startup which looked at using kelp as an alternative to plastics. So it's thinking about those wider systems and the impacts. That's what's been challenged and is at the forefront of design products. So I think even in the point of education, yes, we need a foundation so people have very fundamental knowledge about how you design a product. And I'm not questioning that. But when you start moving from postgraduate to a research point, then it's not just about that physical product.
We have a question at the back. Yeah.
Coming from the focus, of course, of first of all, the consequences that have been because of only thinking of products that the System Pro team showed, and also the fact that it seems that products and systems are, of course, connected. I was wondering from the perspective of education, if there are things or elements or something about products that must be dead, and if so, how can we, what is it and how can we promote it as part of design education? I think that this is a question for both sides.
Yeah, thank you for this question. And indeed, I'm afraid that we might have a similar view from this point of view, because what Saeema just said, indeed, is that even though we should really promote thinking in terms of systems, and we should stop thinking in terms of and designing standalone products as if they don't have connections. At the same time, I do believe, and I think that we might agree on this, that we still very much need to teach product design as well, especially in the beginning. Again, as a bit in my address, I think that's a foundational design knowledge that then it's possible to build on and to kind of expand and to make more sophisticated towards focus on systems. But I'm afraid that the fact that we still want to teach product design is also very much a confirmation that product is not dead. Awesome.
Just a quick chime in. So I fully agree we want to teach system design, but I don't believe we want to teach product design only because we need to. There are a lot of products that people want. I mean, I showed you OXO. I don't know which countries it's sold in. They have well over 1,000 innovative products that do everything from dry your lettuce to open your can of beans. And it's true for many, many of the things that we use every day. And they're not looking to create systems because people need products to function.
I would like to add on this and take a slice from the late Jim Adams and Stanford. For me, it's not about not building a product or building a system. For me, is that I don't want bad products. You know, there's so many bad products out there that bug me as a user, that bug me when I see them, and I wish they would have just thought and tested and tried it out just a little bit more before they started to commit to produce something in masses and just shipping it all around the world. And I think this is really what it's about. So I would love to see bad products being dead.
Thank you. I think this is an excellent point because, and it also links to something that Saeema said before, I think, which is that products is changing and that we need indeed to get rid of bad products. But what I would like to argue is that declaring product dead is very much not going to help us to get rid of bad products.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, then we have one behind you.
Oh.
And then there's a cluster of hands over here we're going to come to. We'll come here first, please.
Thank you. Yes, if I'm not wrong, there is a process in Europe right now where they're creating something called product passport. So if the product is dead, it's about to get its own passport. But maybe the passport can connect the product to the system. Can you comment on that, maybe?
I think product passports are about traceability of materials throughout their lifetime and across products and lifetimes. So that is beyond. So in materials, in building, in the build environment, that's a real conversation when you've got buildings that last for years. For example, in London we had the Grenfell disaster, and a real problem is understanding what you're going to do with all that material and how you can recycle it. Product digital passports in that material will allow traceability. So that example is a system. And it's, you know, so I think it's not the product passport of just saying that is the passport alone. Yeah.
Along the same lines, the right to repair, the access to files to be open source, so we are actually able to make our spare parts if the damn company doesn't wish to sell it to us. That is all part of the product that I think should be accessible.
Yes, aside from the fact that I was a bit scared that the products are dead, because that means that they must have been alive. But the question is really, you use the definition that they hurt if they fall on your foot. Does it mean that products must be physical and manufactured? Or is it exclusive? Should you come up with the same definition today?
Well, that is one of the clear definitions in which you can completely distinguish products and systems. I don't necessarily agree with it, but the problem is that any other definition of products makes it impossible to then distinguish from a system, because then really other kinds of products would always be also describable as systems. So thank you for this question.
Okay, hi. I had a question about like the context of products, and I suppose the context of systems as well. So if I'm to go to like a landfill site, right, I will discover things in the landfill site from like the 1970s, and I don't know what they are. It'll be like an object, an artifact that exists in the world that's been kind of removed from its, say, systemic function, right? So how do we think about that, like products that have been discarded, products that are no longer used, that still exist in the world objectively, but are no longer part of any kind of system that we understand? So like, how can we think about them systemically at all if they're no longer part of any kind of system that we understand? Surely we can only think of them as an artifact or a product on an objective kind of ontological level, if you like. That's the question. Thanks.
Just a funny notion. Back in Stanford, we actually worked with the head of archaeology, and he was digging up in Hadrian's Wall. And it was really fascinating because we started a discussion on product development from our side, and this guy from archaeology, and he said, well, you guys are building products to change behavior, to induce a certain type of behavior, you know, buying, not buying, using, not using, God knows what. My job is to look at artifacts and evaluate what actually the people have been doing with it. So we were kind of like on the same metal, but from two different sides. So that was an interesting kind of discussion on trying to see, okay, I have this artifact, and now I'm trying to think about what, why, how did it, what was it used, etc. So this is an interesting notion. It's probably not relevant, but it just sort of was a fun story. Thank you.
I think you said 1970s was when right? Is that what you said? Some of us don't think that's so old, by the way. Just want to start with that. And then say that be it a product or a system, we evolve and our products and systems evolve, our technologies evolve. So things that were useful, like rotary phones that someone mentioned 50 years ago, are no longer useful. And this kind of leads to whether it's a product, we want to think maybe about designing products that have a longer life. And I'll go back to what Martin said, bad products should be dead. We fully agree. But good products should live on, and we need more and more good products, and we need good products that are designed for longevity.
Okay, I have a question.
Hello. Well, I have a question about your statement that systems are better for the environment. You said that systems are becoming more interconnected and more globalized, and supply chains are becoming more interconnected, and I agree with that. At the same time, here I'm reading a title and a graph that is climate change indicators reach record levels in 2003. So aren't these two contradicting statements then?
Sorry, can you read your last bit of your statement? I didn't get that. That climate change is what?
So the question is that it seems to me that there are two contradicting statements, that systems are becoming more interconnected, and at the same time that then is better for the environment, because the actual trends are not showing that.
Yeah, they're two different types of systems. They don't. So the one is the opportunity that's coming from digital technology. I mean, actually, to be really fair, I'm part of a lab which is on Digital Lab, and we set out with that notion of that systems of systems, thinking about how do you increase productivity and sustainability. So how do you connect those two? It's quite difficult to do. But if you look at the literature from Michael Porter and his examples of systems, it is around sustainability. So, for example, how to go from farm to fork, or so how to bring those together. So they're not supposed to be disconnected. But I think they can be disconnected. So one is an opportunity to create value in different ways without making physical products. And the other bit was the impact of the product, but foreseeing it and designing it in a different way. I mean, that longevity argument is one of those lines on the right-hand side of the technical systems. So they don't have to be disconnected, but they can be. So I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
So I've seen a lot of hands go up, but we have two final questions. And they each have a mic, so we'll start on the aisle and then we'll come to the last question.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much. And this is for both parties. So as a design community, we all look about 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future. That's our research. And if we look at our conferences, the past ones, past 5 years, if you put in here, product design research is dead, long-lived systems design research, where would you sit on that?
We can disagree. I would also disagree. I would still be on the opposing side because as we said, especially because we need good products and our priorities are changing. We need to address ongoing issues, and one of the bodies of knowledge that we need for also addressing, for instance, environmental issues is that we still need to develop new ways and to do research about the better ways to do product design. So that is a way in which also product design research is very much alive, I think.
So we'll go to the last question, please.
All right, yes, thank you. I see valid points on both sides, but there was one thing I was thinking about. Both product and systems are both working on one common goal, right? We're building something for somebody. There's an end user, there's a person behind, whether it's a product or a system. I've been working with emotional design for products in healthcare systems, right? Where we focus on the end user, we're focusing on creating something that works for them, whether they can identify with it or it's something that makes them happy or proud. So if we look at the language we use and the terminology we use to describe the things we do to products in order to get a result, whether it be interaction, whether it be aesthetics, whether it be emotions, how do we translate that into systems? I understand that we can look at, for example, interfaces as a result of systems or subsystems, but this, I argue, is still a product of somebody working on connecting these systems together. So my question is, how should we address some of these design elements we see in product design and move them into talking about them in systems design instead?
Well, so I'm here to say that products are alive, but you're asking a question about how you design systems, so let me answer that. Again, at the early part of your process, you need to uncover what are the needs, wants, and desires. You need to be clear about defining them and articulating goals. That same process is valid and necessary if you're creating a system.
Just want to add a bit to that. So in the example that we gave with the bike lights, but actually it could be true also in healthcare, is not just one value on one goal. When you start moving to systems of systems, you're going across boundaries, and then you have multiple values. And it's part of the design research is how do you incentivize for those multiple values when you all need to work together as part of this systems of systems approach. It is a question, we're discussing it, it's a question of semantics up here, isn't it?
You're a smart bunch, questioning the proposition as well as the people at the front. There'll be a time for that later. So we've had the questions. Closing statement from the proposing side, please.
Yeah, I think the question is, I think actually James said it, in 10 years' time, what are we going to be designing? Are we going to be designing differently? That's the first question. Do we think that thinking about the product alone is enough? If we create beautiful trainers, and no matter how many years John managed to keep them going, have we done a good thing by creating those pair of trainers, or whatever the KitchenAid was, without thinking about the impact of that on landfill, on waste, on pollution, whether we needed that product in the first place? So sometimes I think the answer to the problem is no product, actually. So it may be moving to, that's well-known, product as a service, moving over. So the question is that where do we think we're going? Will we lose opportunities if we just stay in our design research, thinking just about the product on its own? Because for me, that product is dead without thinking of systems in there. So will we lose opportunities both to be responsible as a community, but also to create value and make opportunities as a community?
Thank you, Saeema. And John, closing statement.
So we need sustainable products. We need to have a positive impact on the world. We need to do research on systems as well. But I really need my hookahs. And I need them to become better and better. And I need products as well as all of you needing products. So it isn't one or the other, but certainly there's a long life ahead of us for successful products.
Thank you both. So now is the time to vote. So we could try people changing sides if they would wish to do so swiftly.
Oh no. But they also switched at some point during the debate. It was much better that you did the closing statement, I think.
It was better than I did.
Yeah, you're right. It was very
I didn't think it was a bunch.
No, I said, are you okay with doing the closing statement?
Oh, I thought you meant with you doing it.
No. That's what. I guess there is a me missing, but that's okay. Sure. You were right. Oh no. That's okay. A lot of people switch at some point.
I don't know.
How are we going to decide it? Where is Ula going? Ula better not change.
I think it's time.
I have a very strong sense that this debate is going to continue. I can't call this one, to be frank. So I would say both sides have made a substantive case, a convincing case for half of the audience. And let the debate continue. I know there's plenty of hands up, more questions, more comments. Take those through to dinner tonight, to tomorrow. When you get home to your labs, please. One last thing, a massive thank you to Saeema, Martin, Valeria and John for having the courage to come up here. And thank you all for engaging in the debate. If you have better challenges for 2 years' time, let me know. We look forward to it and look forward to seeing you back here 2 years from now. Thank you. Just one thing before you go. It's only fair probably to let each one of the four say where they really stand on this topic. Martin. Yes.
Okay, I've never been a systems engineer, and I really don't want to teach system engineering and move little boxes around and draw little errors there and back and forth and then go into systems of systems of systems. I love building stuff and putting sensors onto stuff and building great artifacts. So yes, but please keep the product.
Right, Saeema.
I also want to keep the product, but with the system.
Thank you. John.
Well, I actually, again, think systems are important, but I think products are important and will live on. And I will say that I think we all sort of flip-flop back and forth through our discussion through this whole process. So it's really been fun to see.
Thanks, John. Valeria.
Systems design is literally my field of study, especially systems design. It was very hard to argue against it. But I also actually really think the product is not dead. So that is...
Well, there you go. And thanks to them all again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll keep in touch.